Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This is kind of one of the first of our series that we've done like this. And for those of you who have never met before, my name is Kitt Letcher. I'm the president and CEO for Better Business Bureau serving Central Oklahoma. And we have been a part of the Oklahoma landscape for over 80 years. And so having businesses be a part of BBB is obviously a huge part of what we do, but we're excited to be able to talk to Jeff Kretchmar with Energy FC today, and just going into how the dynamics of the current situation has changed their business, what they're looking at going into this upcoming season, and just making sure that you all that are fans and business owners and industry leaders are aware, and maybe hopefully get some tips and tricks and things that you can pull from today's conversation. So thank you for joining us, Jeff. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having me on this morning and being interested in hopefully what I say. So we'll find out.
Yeah, absolutely. So just really quickly, Jeff has a really fantastic bio. And so with 20 years of experience in professional sports and entertainment, Jeff now serves as Chief Operating Officer for Energy FC. Jeff has been with Energy FC since its inception and has a primary focus of growing the culture, brand, and business of the club. He has previously acted as Director of Operations, VP of Operations, VP of Sales and Marketing with the organization. Jeff is on the executive committee for the South OKC Chamber and is a member of the Legacy Rotary in Norman. Jeff is a graduate of the Leadership Oklahoma City Class 35, Team South Class 11, and was honored as a 2017 Achiever Under 40 by the Journal Record. In addition to the Oklahoma City Energy FC USL Championship, Prodigal produces events such as O City St. Patrick's Day Parade, OKC Downtown's Fourth Fest, a live music and fireworks event in the heart of Oklahoma City, professional bull rider tour events in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, and Christmas Crawl in Oklahoma City, which is the longest running holiday charity bar crawl, and Oklahoma City's Open Streets in partnerships with OCCHD. So Jeff, thank you for being with us today. And you have such a tremendous pool of experience to draw from. If you would, let's just start out with diving a little bit deeper into your past and tell us how you got started with Energy FC and what has led you to the events that you're in right now.
Sure, absolutely. So just a little bit more on my background. I've kind of always been in sports and entertainment. I think I was very fortunate in college. I went to OU, and like most kids, I needed a job. And a friend of mine worked in the athletic department and got me a job in there my freshman year. And I've been in sports ever since. Coming out of university, I had the opportunity to work for the ballpark. At the time it was the Red Hawks, which kind of got me involved with the Funk family. And at that time, they owned the ballpark, and so I've kind of been with them for a long time. The most recent stay here has been about 14 years. And we've done a little bit of everything together. It's been a group of us that have been together for a very long time in sports entertainment. And then, we just started our 7th season with Energy FC. Managed to get one match into it before COVID-19 shut us down, but that's okay. But we really started this process about 8 or 9 years ago, and we decided we were looking at a soccer team. So it's a rising sport. One of the things we track is high school participation of sports, and soccer's been on the rise for a long time, and continues to increase every day. So we're looking at a soccer team, and I kind of raised my hand and I said, hey guys, I kind of hate to admit this, but I've never actually seen a professional soccer match. So there was a group of us that went up to Seattle to watch the Sounders play, and instantly just fell in love with it. Came back, both hands raised. We got to figure this out. We got to do this. We've got to make this happen. And I think it's something that Oklahoma City has opened its arms and its hearts to, and it's been very good for us, and a great partnership with Oklahoma City and our fans.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I love about your story and Energy FC in particular is just you guys have become not just like a part of the community, but you've had such a huge impact on significant landmarks within our community and stadium renovations, helping out Bishop McGuinness and improving their stadiums and different things. Talk to us a little bit about just some of the community projects that you guys have done over the years.
Yeah, so we started in 2014. It was the World Cup year, so I think there was a nice synergy there for us and people being re-energized with soccer at that time. And so Bishop McGuinness offered their field to us and their doors to us. But the field had this huge crown into it, and they didn't have very many seats. And so we came in and we updated their field and added seating and invested, a few $1 million into that facility. And then we hit about 101% capacity for that first year. And we thought, man, you know what would be nice? A bigger stadium would be nice. So at the time, Oklahoma City Public Schools, through a bond issue, was renovating Taft Stadium. It was about a $9 million renovation. So we were able to come in. We added about $3 million to that. To upgrade things such as the press box and the video board and the field surface and some seating upgrades and things like that. And so, and those are things that live and stay with those stadiums and those facilities and schools. And, it's just part of what we do. We always, it's the thing, that I think most of our moms and dads taught us is you leave it better than you found it. And so that's kind of our mentality of, what we're trying to accomplish here in Oklahoma City.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. And it's so interesting to see how something that's completely new to a city, like now having a football club, now having Energy be a part of Oklahoma City, and the transformation over such a short amount of time. I mean, 6 years really isn't very long. And so when you look at that transformation that's happened for a couple of different areas of Oklahoma City, it's really been significant. And I think it's neat to see that we now have this focal point for so many different communities to be able to come together and just enjoy such a family-friendly environment and event and things that, like, I have taken my kids to soccer games and they love it. And we are not avid soccer fans, I will. But as you know, my kids are 8 and 12. And so as they have gotten older and they've played soccer either at school or through different, sporting groups, it's been really nice to take them to a place and they can see the camaraderie that sports really brings together within the community. And not that I expect them to become professional athletes, but they can see, like, this is such a neat thing for a community. I think it shows how vital it is within our community. And I'm sure the people who work for Energy FC and your team, your players, all feel that sense of camaraderie with the community as well.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that that we want to instill. And one of the first things we do with the team when they come together preseason is we take them to the memorial. We want them to understand the community. We want them to understand the roots and the ties. And I've born and raised in Moore, Oklahoma, and have been through a few tornadoes and things. And so we try to help the players and the staff that we bring in, people that we bring in, help them understand that Oklahoma has a very different way of doing things, and it's all about being there for one another and creating that sense of community every single day.
Yeah, that's really neat. I didn't know that you guys did that, so I love that story. That's really neat. And so with the camaraderie that you've been able to build with this team, how are you guys adjusting to everything that's going on as far as keeping your team and your employees and when I say team, I mean the collective, like, Energy FC team, because that's how I talk about my team. There's only 21 of us, but we're a team, and while we're not athletes, we certainly have that kind of mentality that goes with it. So how are you all adjusting to working remotely and not having games right now and having to have delayed that season and what that looks like?
Sure, and I think team's the best word for it, because that's what we're trying to we're always striving to be united and go on the same path together. And so I think that really defines team well. We have question marks. We don't know when our season can start. We don't know. It's a little bit different for us. I think we enter phase 2 here in the next couple of days here in Oklahoma City. and we'll be able to have professional sporting events again. Except that we have 31 other teams in cities and locales that we have to be concerned about. And so, it's not as easy as just flipping a switch on. And so for us, it's been, how do we continue to create that sense of team through the uncertainty? How do we create that camaraderie, and how do we make sure that people are staying connected? It's really easy to send your employees home and say, well, work remotely, go home. Here's a laptop. I think it's an entirely different thing to try to keep people engaged, and to try to keep people connected, and to keep people moving forward together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So since we are now working remotely, and you guys have more than laptops and more than workouts and things like that, like, what are the different activities that you guys are doing?
Yeah, so we started pretty early. We've always used Slack in our office. I think it was probably a few of us that used it more than others. And so we really tried to shift into getting everyone to utilize that tool, and really using it as daily communication, as much for work as it is for sending goofy memes, and just kind of, doing the normal, the normal office stuff, because you don't want to lose that connection back to what it feels like to be in the office. One of our Slack channels is actually named the water cooler, because that's where we want people just to go. And this is not where you post anything important, right? This is where we talk about what we had for breakfast and lunch, and and we just kind of continue to build the relationship with one another. We use Zoom a lot, and we've encouraged everyone to use those tools that they have. It's easy to get on a phone. We all have cell phones. It's easy to get on a phone and have a conversation, but it's such a different thing when you're on a video chat, and you're engaging multiple people at once, and you're staying connected. And it's a lot easier to know that, I'm talking to Kitt right now, and we're looking at each other, and we're having this really meaningful conversation, instead of, well, I'm on my cell phone and I'm kind of paying attention, kind of not, kind of cleaning my closet, whatever. And so I think that, the tools that have become available to us are absolutely key to the success of remote working.
Yeah, I would agree with that so much. And we at BBB, just to give a little extra context, like, we do a daily staff meeting, and sometimes those meetings are really awesome and great, and they go really well, and everybody has their normal level of energy. And then other days it's like, guys, come on, like, what happened? What did you do yesterday? And it just, you get to see everybody's kind of emotional roller coaster. And I don't mean like roller coaster in a bad way, but just because we're all experiencing so many different things, and personally, professionally, whatever our spouses or our children or other family members are going through, by having that video recognition and being able to see that other person's face, you stay connected and get to see just what they're going through and where they are emotionally right now. Because that's something we would normally see when we're in the office, right? Like, if somebody comes in and they're just kind of like not having the best day, you could pull them aside and say, okay, what's going on? Are you okay? Instead of like, oh, I'm talking to you on my phone and your tone doesn't sound right, but that could just be because you are distracted. So I love that you guys are incorporating the video chats and just really staying integrated and connected in that way.
Yeah, and it's so important in every aspect. I mean, you even take our team side, the players. I mean, these are professional athletes. They know what they need to accomplish, and they know what they need to do, but they're doing workouts over Zoom. It's that point of connectivity. And how are we doing? How are we checking in with each other? How are we getting through this? How can I be there for somebody else? And being able to see another human being while you're talking to them makes a big difference.
Yeah. I'm curious, and we haven't talked about this, but with your athletes and kind of working out together on Zoom, are they able to do things that are maybe a little bit more competitive than they would if they were side by side, like in the arena, like working out together? Have they done anything to?
They're professional athletes. They're always competitive. Everything they do is competitive. I think from working out to sprints to eating. I think that everything they do has a level of competitiveness to it. So it was a chance to be better than the guy sitting next to you, right?
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious because I know that your athletes do a lot in the community and they go out and about. And so right now, you guys are keeping them a little more sheltered in place than maybe the rest of your team. So, how are you still able to go out and do those community events and different things that you are so well known for?
Sure. I think a great example of it is because we do have additional restrictions on the players, because we're trying to make sure that not only do we keep them healthy, but, as we continue to look towards how do we start a season, we need them to not be out in the public as much. We need them to, as we start trying to figure out how do we send people across state lines and into other communities, we have to be really safe about that. So it's a little bit different for us, but we were able to, our coach and some staff were able to donate some pizza to St. Anthony's, and so they took that over there. It was through one of our great partners, Papa John's, and they were able to take the St. Anthony's staff some pizza, and so we're trying to find those little ways to continue to do what we do. We're really good partners with Police Athletic League. So we have conversations with them trying to figure out, what can we still do? Those kids aren't in school, they're not playing, but, is there a way we can help engage? Is there a way that we can, is there a way we can still continue to provide that aspirational model to them?
Yeah, that's really great. So you have a ton of experience, obviously, with events and different things like that. And I know that the rest of your kind of administrative team does as well. I'm going forward as you're looking at reopening this new season, playing teams from other states and their kind of different opening procedures that they're dealing with. How are you all managing that process, and what are the things that we would be able to see just as regular citizens who don't have your insight? And what are the things that you guys are working on as far as how you're going to reopen and what your new season will look like?
Sure. I think that we've done a few different things. So really, when and how the season is open is somewhat dictated by our league, and they work on a task force with MLS and NWSL, and so we're all trying to pull on the same string to work together to open facilities and figure out how we travel around the country and do these things. And I can go into that a little bit more here in a second. But here locally and internally, and it's part of keeping our staff engaged and trying to figure out how we make the best possible future out of what we're looking at. Is we've started, internal projects and programs where we're mixing departments and mixing staff, and we're the first one we did, we gave some really defined parameters on ROI, and here's what we're trying to accomplish, and here's what we're trying to do, and so they came up with these projects, and so it's really important that we lean on the experience of everybody in our organization. From the top down, we try to, I think we try to really not be a title type of company. And so we really want to listen to everything that everyone has to say, because everybody has good ideas. And what we don't want to do is people to be afraid to raise their hand. So we put them in teams and situations where they can do that. And then we continue that process by putting together smaller teams and still continuing to mix departments so we can get a breadth of ideas of, okay, when we come back to play, and maybe it's 2020. Or maybe some of these ideas are 2021. Maybe they're 2022, because as we look at, business plans and you look at, 2020 is out the window, water it in a ball, throw it away. We're going to make a new 2020. But really your 3 and 5 year plans need to change as well. So we're looking at, okay, how do we really start to integrate this new future? And how do we make sure that we're keeping the staff engaged? And how are we going to do all this and still pivot? And so we're constantly going back out and saying, hey, what do you guys think? What do you guys want to do? How do we make this better for all of us? So we're going through that route. And then, in terms of getting facilities open and things like that, we're trying to take every aspect that we can and really think through the process of how do we keep our players safe and how do we keep our fans safe? And so it's, I think we fell into some of it a little bit by luck. Because we're always trying to provide the best customer experience. And so part of that is, about 2 years ago, we switched over to Ticketmaster so we can provide a fully ticketless entry. Your tickets on your phone, we'll scan your phone. We never touch your phone. We never touch your ticket. We never touch you. We have security protocols that people can go through and be wanded. Again, we're not touching. And then this year we only got to use it once, so we're still learning through the system, but we updated all of our food and beverage and so concessions and merchandise to be completely contactless payment systems as well. So you can do Apple Pay and Google Pay and tap to touch or tap to pay cards. And so we're trying to figure those things out, and then we got to take that a step further. Well, what does it look like so that a fan doesn't have to open a bathroom door? What does it look like, so that, in every stadium in the world before a game goes through and you take a blower or towels and you wipe off seats? That's not good enough anymore. So how are we cleaning the facility, not just for it to be clean, but for it to be sanitized? And I think there's definitely a difference between clean and sanitized. And so we're really trying to think through every aspect of how do we make this the safest place that it can be for our fans, and what's the perception, behind that. One of the things that the league's looking at is, we have to, more than likely, we'll have to test players, prior to matches. So that ends up, when you have, 32 teams playing all over the country, that's a lot of matches. And so that's a lot of tests, and, they would be pulled separately, and they would be, purchased separately through clinics. So they don't really pull from that general population, but still there's a perception of, is that really the best use for these tests when you still have communities, today saying, hey, we might run out of tests this week.
Right.
So we have to really look at the perception of it and the ethics of it and say, okay, well, what does that look like? And how do we have that conversation? What does the PR side of that look like? So those are some of the things that we're trying to work through right now, so that we can get back to play.
Yeah. And I think it's so neat that you guys are thinking about all of the different aspects of it. And obviously with your years of experience, some of that probably comes a little more naturally now because you've been through a variety of different events and experiences and just had to be flexible and fly by the seat of your pants. And so I'm curious then, with some of these measures, it removes, I would say, some of the engagement with fans because people feel like the social distancing and just some of that non-touching, it just leads to a little bit of taking away the closeness that you feel whenever you're in an arena like that. And so I'm curious, what are the things that you guys are doing to continue to help fans feel engaged and just like they're really part of this community that you guys have worked so hard to build?
Yeah, it's trying to figure out. I don't think we're in the new normal yet. I think we're in a temporary normal, and we have to still figure out and define what that normal is going to be in the future. And I think that some of this is going to be part of it. We have to figure out. There used to be a lot of high fives. There used to be a lot of the different things. Those change, and so people will naturally shift and change as well. But how do we encourage that? And going into this initially, it'll probably be a little bit easier. Most of the sporting venues and entertainment venues, when we're talking about reopening, it'll be in a socially distanced fashion, where we have to keep fans separate. You can basically stay with the people you came with, your family or people that you purchased your little block of tickets with. But outside of that, we'll probably have to distance people, and so it's a little bit going to be a little bit easier up front. But there's definitely sports is unpredictable at times. You never know. A few years back, we had a big game and that we won at the last moment, and before you knew it, there were 5,000 people on the field. And so what are the security protocols, and how do we keep that from happening? And it's never going to be perfect. There's going to be opportunities where we just go, well, we lost control of that real quick. But you have to be willing to move quickly and understand that that some of those risks still exist.
Yeah. And that's, one of the beauties of sports is that just emotional swell that everybody feels is awesome. And one of the things I think that people enjoy most about it is you get those highs and lows all together.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's neat.
Absolutely.
One of the things that you and I talked about previously is just how we take people who are in their kind of typical roles, like your And we've talked a little bit about like your sales team, and they're, you know, typically out selling, getting tickets, season passes, like things like that. But now they've really had to pivot and and their role isn't necessarily different in that they're still working on the development of Energy FC, but how they talk to people is a little bit different. Why don't you walk us through just what that looks like for your organization?
Sure. You know, about half of our full-time staff is sales related or sales support staff. You know, we're at the end of the day, we're still a business, and so that's, you know, that's a big part of what we do. And so as we kind of shift into this, and obviously, you know, it's not just that people are working remotely. You know, you have a lot of businesses closed right now, especially small business, and you have a lot of people out of work and things. So, you know, it's not. Um, it's you have to change your positioning, right? And so we've kind of taken our sales team and turned it more of a relationship management team. They're still selling. They've sold a few things here and there, which is fantastic, and they're doing a really great job for us. I'm very proud of all of them. But really, what they're doing is they're reaching out and creating relationships, so that when we do return to play, then we can reach back out to those fans and say, hey, you know, here's how we'd love for you to come support the team. And maybe that's just as simple as turning on the TV and watching us on TV because we can't have as many fans in the stadium. But we're trying to really build for the future. You know, we can't be stagnant just because of what's happening. So we have to look at, you know, our social media team has done a fantastic job of engaging fans and new fans. They're still going out and they're creating leads and they're funneling that back to the sales team. And so then our team's going to reach out, and again, it's building a relationship. It's not a sell. It's not some high pressure thing. It is, you know, oh, what's going on with you? You know, how are you doing? How are you handling the situation? And we want them to just, you know, be there for the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love that sentiment so much. And, you know, with Better Business Bureau, we evaluate businesses on, you know, they've checked all the boxes for the things that they need to do to stay in good standing as far as like business regulations, if you will. But the secondary layer of that really is about the ethics and the integrity of a business and how they not only treat their employees, but how they treat their consumers and just their mindset when it comes to like business and ethics. And I love that you all really weave that into the fabric of your organization, and talk about it so openly, so freely, because I think it's such an interesting and necessary thing for someone like you, who's the COO of your organization. Like, you are the top of your organization. You are the person who sets the tone for how we treat our customers, how we treat our players, how we treat the open community, and what that looks like. And so if you are able to weave in the relationship portion of it, I think that's so neat, because it really translates into what your organization means to Oklahoma City and to Oklahoma. Really, it goes way beyond just like our small community. It is so much more broad reaching than that. And I love that that's part of your dialogue that you're having with people.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, we don't want to be in the community. We want to be a part of the community. We want to be part of the fabric of what Oklahoma City is. You know, we still have time, and we're still intending on playing all 17 of our home matches this year. You know, so we haven't really put out to our fans and customers yet on, you know, what that looks like if we don't, because that's still the goal right now. That's still the intention. But we've had a few people reach out to us and ask for, you know, a refund. They're a high risk category. They know they're not going to be attending sporting events. Look, we're always going to put our customers first. That's what's important to us. They're our fans. We exist because of them. So if we don't take care of them, then I'm not really sure what we're trying to accomplish.
Right. Yeah. And I love that, because it's easy to get swept up in the dollars of, you know, everyday life, but we are in a situation that is so much bigger than that. And just, it has such long-term ramifications and consequences based on our actions and within our organizations, not just for like the reputation of your business, but the reputation of you as a leader and the reputation of what soccer means to this community. And we see that so often. I would say on the news, you hear about businesses who are doing things the wrong way. And it's such a fine line on how do we not do that? Like, how do we really walk the path of upstanding and businesses that have like good integrity and good ethics within every decision that they're making. And I think that's something that you and I've talked about is it can be hard to make those decisions sometimes, but when you lay that framework down and just really show people what that right and wrong is, it doesn't ever become a decision. It's just, no, that's how we do things. That's our business way. That's our model. We always lean this way because that's the right way to do business. And that's what we want people to know us for.
No, absolutely. And that's what it comes down to, just doing the right thing. We can make business decisions that are based on revenue. Look, I'm as much of a capitalist as anybody, right? But at the end of the day, I'm trying to build a business that's going to be here for 100 years, not 2 years.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have anything to do with me. I want to build something that's going to be here for the community long term. And the only way to really do that is to become part of that fabric and do the right thing and treat people correctly. And that's how you build something that's long lasting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm curious because your organization and business model, the things that you see as challenges may be a little bit different than what the rest of us encounter. So I'm just curious from your perspective, do you feel like are some of the biggest challenges that you guys are facing or have faced during this whole pandemic and having to shelter in place? And as you are looking at how your business model is changing a little bit, what do those challenges look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Our business is a little bit different. Like I said, we plan to play 17 to 20 home matches, every year. And that's kind of what our business is based on. We're not a restaurant, or we're not a business that's open to the public 365 days a year. I hope people buy merchandise 365 days a year, but but our core business is based around those home matches. And in the past, it's been more of a live entertainment model, and we have to look at, as we look at social distancing, and sure, that's 2020, maybe 2021. We don't really know how long that's going to last. So we're talking about going down to 20 to 30% of our stadium capacity. Well, that's a pretty big hit to your business model, and so we have to take a look and shift and say, okay, well, how do we provide our product? It's on ESPN Plus, which is a paid platform, but how do we provide our product to everybody in the community? Again, it's a community-based organization. We're here for people of Oklahoma City. So how do we do that? Well, we need local TV contracts. And so, that's something that we've been trying to explore is, okay, we need to be on local TV. And there's not really a giant revenue stream for that. And so we got to figure out, okay, well, how do we create revenue around that? And how do we make that part of our business model? And so we have to go back to the drawing board and kind of reimagine, what it means to be a professional soccer team in Oklahoma City. And every market's going to be a little bit different, but that's the approach that we're trying to take is what does it mean to be Energy FC right here in Oklahoma City?
Yeah. And so I love that at the very beginning of this conversation, you talked about projects for your team and how you guys have pulled different groups together and talked about different things. I'm curious what interesting new processes, procedures, things came from that do you feel like is really going to enable the different challenges that you all are facing?
Yeah, we're still working through a lot of that. What I've seen is really amazing ideas and thought processes and teamwork come out of this. Normally we have, I think, departments, and not just us. I think it's very common in the business landscape. You get departments that tend to work in silos. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to do. I work with these 4 people. I'm going to continue to work with these 4 people. And so we really tried to make sure that we're mixing up teams and mixing up personalities. And it's as much for the idea generation as it is for the collaboration, because we're building a stronger team at the end of the day. But what we've really seen is some really great processes and ideas come out of it. if we expect, myself or our leadership team to come up with every idea in the company, we're going to fail. And so what we need to do is really rely on every single person that we have. It doesn't matter if you're, sitting in my seat, or if you're on the phone making those relationship calls, or if you're, sitting at the front desk greeting people as they walk into the office, which they're not allowed to do right now. But it doesn't really matter what seat you're sitting in. It's you have. Sports is very passionate. And so if you're here, more than likely you have some sort of passion for what we do. So somewhere in there are some amazing ideas, and there's going to be introverts and extroverts. And so it's really trying to get everybody mixed in and get those ideas out, so that we can make the best plan of action. It's always about the idea, and the creative process with us.
Yeah. And so, because you guys, I mean, obviously are here in Oklahoma City, and you mentioned that you have, is it 31 other teams that you play?
Yes.
Okay. So that's a lot of other dynamics and personalities and things going into it. I'm curious how you are coordinating with those other teams and what it looks like.
Yeah, so that's that's a function through our league offices, and they do a really good job. They have different departments. Our ticket sales departments have meetings every week. Our partnership departments have meetings every week. The marketing communications, and then on a leadership level, so they do a really good job of helping teams try to mix those ideas together. What are you guys doing that works, versus what are you guys doing that works? And every like I said, every market's going to be a little bit different when it comes to sports entertainment. But we can really gives us an opportunity to take a model that works and make the tweaks that work for us, and try to produce something new and unique for the fans. It's important that for us that we're always striving to keep it as make sure that it's a reminder that it's an entertainment product. Soccer fans are generally aware of us, and they're going to come and watch the soccer, right? But there's about 75% of the population that maybe aren't the biggest soccer fans. Like you said, you're not the biggest soccer fan, but you've been to a few games and the kids had a great time. Yeah. And that is exactly what we want to happen. And so we have to focus on the entertainment side of it, and the league and the other teams. We're all kind of turning that same wheel. How do we do that? But how do we still be authentic to the sport and the game? And how do we make sure that that we're still providing that safe environment? And so we're really running through those processes every single day.
Yeah. And so I love that you talked about just that kind of trial and error, and looking at all of those different opportunities. I'm curious, what things have you guys normally done that you were like, okay, we don't do that anymore? That's no longer part of our normal. We're just going to completely let that go. Do you have anything on the board that's like that? And you're like, okay, we don't have to, or here's something that we love doing, but it's just got to get cut.
Yeah, there's definitely some things that we're going to have to cut. We have a kids zone at our games. Anybody that's been to one of our matches and has children have probably sent them down there. It's kind of like a self-babysitting service, but it's amazing and people love it. There's very few ways we could do that in a safe, sanitized way. It's a lot of kids, very close quarters. There's inflatables and there's balls flying around, and there's a lot of people touching things, right? And so those are one of the things we look at and say that, until we figure out what the real normal is going to look like in the future, that probably can't happen immediately. So there's definitely some things and some aspects that we're going to have to be okay with dropping and losing, for the general safety and ability just to be open. So we have to really think through all those processes. One of the big things that we'll have to look at is if we're selling games in a socially distanced fashion, we probably have to lose one of our biggest revenue sources, which is group tickets. It'd be very difficult for us to invite 200 people out and then say, but you can't sit together. So that's one of those short-term things that's a revenue stream, and part of the environment and atmosphere that we'll probably have to look at and say that's going to have to go on the back burner for a little while. It's not in the realm of possibility at this time. So we're going to have to be okay with that And then we have to figure out, how do we get back to that in the future, and how do we replace those things?
Yeah. So taking that question and talking about the things that you are no longer doing, I'm curious, turn it into your like administrative side and your in-office side. Are you guys are using Slack more now than you did when you were in the office, obviously, because you're having more face-to-face meetings, but what are different things in like your departments and that you guys are no longer doing or that looks a little bit different?
Yeah, I think everything looks different right now. And our team has done a really good job of remote working. We just got part of our team, about 8 people, back in the building just recently, and we're still kind of slowly phasing back in, and that'll continue pretty much through mid-June. The way we've spaced it out, we're going to be really slow and precise about how we do that. Because we have a pretty small office square footage wise, and so we have to really think through how we're keeping our employees safe. We went to an open working environment about I guess it was about a year 2 years ago, and we thought it was really great for communication. It was really awesome, but it turns out it's terrible for something like this. So we have to kind of rethink that. But everybody has done such an amazing job, and I've been so proud of our team for. The way that they've handled remote working, that we'll probably look at, okay, well, what policies need to change in the future? How can we make it so that people can work from home a little bit more often, or have a little bit more of a free working environment that suits them the best? And everybody's different. Some people need to be in the office, and some people don't. So we need to maybe not have policies that are so straight lined across the board. And how do we need to change and grow through this process from a company policy procedure? And you can tell the difference in some people, that they're getting more time with their families, and they're a little bit more engaged when they are working, because they had that moment where they got to go outside and help little Susie ride her bike, and that's a huge lift.
Yeah.
So, how do we make sure that we keep those things up in the future will be very important to us.
Yeah, and I think that's so true for a lot of different offices. I know it's true for me. I'm in my room right now at home. My kids are in the kitchen, hopefully still doing schoolwork. We'll find out when I get done here. The fact that like I work in the morning and I stay super focused and I'm able to get a whole bunch of stuff done. And then whenever I walk out of my bedroom, I have lunch with them and get to talk to them about the things that they learned. And it's so immediate. And just they're learning math, 30 minutes ago from somebody who is way better at it than I am. And so we've got them on different homeschooling platforms that have great videos and things that they can learn from, so they can learn in their own style. And I think that's one of the things that I really enjoyed, just seeing happen on real time and figuring out like, okay, this kiddo doesn't learn so well just with computer, like they need the instruction too, or they need a video, or they need a story to go with it. And so what does that look like? And then taking that level of information and how do we translate it back to the office, and how do we incorporate that level of flexibility for our teams, and what that looks like, and just letting people succeed kind of in their own space. And it doesn't have to be this cookie cutter option. It really can be so different and have so much variety with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to work at it. Like I said earlier, you can't just send them home and expect it to be better.
Right.
But if you work, with everybody, and you work with your leadership, the teams, and you can make it a better environment. And I think we've seen a higher quantity and quality of work out of our teams, and it's because they're in situations where it's a little bit more laid back. And look, maybe we need to rethink. Maybe we don't all need to be in suits all the time. It's not that comfortable, right? Like, so maybe we need to rethink what some of those things are, and how do you work best. And when I want you to be creative, can you really be creative when you're sitting inside of a 4x4 desk, or can you be more creative when I say, hey, here's this thing we want to think about, and you go take a run. How are we really engaging our teams to think through how they're best? Let's put people in situations where they can be their best.
Yeah. And I love that. That's one of my personal mottos is just asking that question, why not? And when people say, well, we have to do it this way, I was like, why? Like, who said that's the rule? Why? And they're like, what if we try this? And I'm like, I don't know, why not? Like, why wouldn't we do that? Because I can't say it's not going to work. I haven't tried it. Maybe it will. So I think this pandemic, while it has been awful in so many different ways, the silver lining is it really has demonstrated that what we consider to be the box that we're working inside of, we have so many opportunities to just push those walls down and really do something different and be collaborative in helping other people succeed in that same vein.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So as we are wrapping up, I just wanted to, as you are, talk to us a little bit about how people can find Energy FC, look for social media, different things like that. But as you're doing that, I want to make sure that we give everybody an opportunity. If you have questions for Jeff or myself and things that we didn't cover in our conversation today, make sure that you're covering that in the chat and put it in for everybody so that our team can collect it at BBB and help answer those questions. And we'll be happy to do that right now. But Jeff, how can people find out more about Energy FC?
Yeah, we have a fantastic social media team. So you can learn everything you would want to know at energyfc.com or any of the popular social media sites, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, et cetera, et cetera. You can search Energy FC and find us there.
Awesome. And when you do start playing games again and we're looking for you on TV, where do we see you there?
We're on ESPN Plus with all of our matches, and hopefully we'll be able to announce a TV partner in the near future once we learn what that schedule is going to look like.
Yeah, well, we are definitely excited for you guys to get back to business and back out on the field and have an event to go to where we know that we will be socially distanced and safe and everything will be clean and sanitized the way that we would hope that it is. And so just thank you so much, Jeff, for being candid and just talking about your all's processes and procedures and things that you're looking for, and especially in your upcoming season, and just being open about the new possibilities for Energy FC.
Absolutely, and I appreciate the opportunity to come on and discuss those things with you. And if anybody has any questions or would like to talk about Energy FC in more detail, they can reach me at jeff@energyfc.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. We appreciate that. And I don't see any questions in our chat, so I think
Awesome.
we are good. And I will just plug really quickly, if anybody has events that they are looking for as far as other networking opportunities at BBB Central OK, we have a ton of stuff on our social media as well. And we look forward to seeing people at upcoming events. And Jeff, thank you so much. And we are so proud to have Energy FC as an accredited business and everything that you guys do for our community.
Thank you, Kitt, and I appreciate you and your team in setting this up.
Yeah, absolutely.